Walk into literally any grocery store in the Western world today, and you will find an entire refrigerated wall dedicated strictly to milk. You can buy milk squeezed from a cow, a goat, or a sheep. You can buy milk engineered out of almonds, oats, and soybeans. But do you ever stop and wonder why horse milk is completely absent from that wall? It feels like a massive historical blind spot, considering we've lived side by side with horses for 5,000 years. But here is the twist. People do drink horse milk. Right now, in countries like Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, mare's milk is a massive agricultural staple, a historical tradition, and a deeply respected health food. So, why them and not us? Why did a few specific cultures build their entire lifestyle around milking horses, while the rest of the civilized world completely rejected it? The answer has nothing to do with whether or not our stomachs can physically digest it. We can. The answer has everything to do with the fact that horses are biologically engineered like high-performance sports cars, while cows are built like slow-moving cargo trucks. Let's start with the basic biological architecture, because the internal plumbing alone explains why this never caught on at scale. A cow is essentially a walking, slow-moving biological fermentation factory. They are ruminants. That means they possess a massive, multi-chambered stomach designed to take useless, low-calorie grass, break it down over hours of chewing the cud, and turn it into massive amounts of caloric energy. But more importantly, a cow has a giant storage tank. Their udders contain large internal cisterns, meaning they can produce milk constantly and store gallons of it inside their own bodies until something comes along to empty it. You can walk up to a cow twice a day, attach a machine, or use your hands, and walk away with buckets of high-fat, calorie-dense liquid. But a horse operates on a completely different set of physical rules. They are single-stomached, hindgut fermenters. They do not have time to stand around chewing the same mouthful of grass 4 times over. Horses evolved on wide open plains where apex predators were a constant, immediate threat. Their bodies are designed for flight, for sudden bursts of extreme speed, and for prolonged, relentless endurance. You simply cannot outrun a pack of wolves if you are carrying 3 gallons of sloshing liquid between your back legs. Therefore, a horse's udder is tiny. They possess almost zero storage capacity. They produce milk strictly on demand, drop by drop, exactly when their foal needs it, and not a single moment before. But this biological bottleneck is only half the problem. The real nightmare starts when you actually try to force this system to work on a human schedule. Because a horse physically cannot store milk in large quantities, you are never going to get more than about 1 liter at a time. To get a genuinely usable daily yield, enough to actually feed a family, run a farm, or justify the cost of feeding the animal, you have to milk a mare 5 to 6 times a day. You are walking out to the barn every 2 hours around the clock, day and night, completely destroying your own sleep and labor schedule just to extract a fraction of what a single cow would give you in 5 minutes. But it gets worse. You cannot just walk up to a horse with a metal bucket and expect cooperation. Modern dairy cows have been selectively bred for thousands of years to drop their milk for anyone. A farmer, a mechanical pump, a complete stranger. Horses have not. A mare has an incredibly strict, biologically hardwired let-down reflex. She will categorically refuse to release her milk unless her specific foal is standing right next to her, physically nudging her. So now, you aren't just farming horses, you are managing an incredibly complex psychological hostage situation every 2 hours, dragging a baby horse over to its mother just to trick her body into releasing a liter of liquid. No early civilization in history had the surplus time or human labor to waste on that kind of exhausting, microscopic extraction process. But let's pretend you did. Let's say you dedicated your entire waking life to this grueling schedule, milking your horse 6 times a day. The liquid you are left with at the end of the day is structurally broken for the needs of the modern world. Horse milk is watery, extremely sweet, and contains less than 2% fat. That might sound fantastic for a modern diet, but for 99% of human history, low fat meant starvation. Before the invention of electrical refrigeration, the only way humans survived freezing winters or long droughts was by taking liquid milk and turning it into solid, shelf-stable calories. You take high-fat cow or sheep milk, you churn it, you curdle it, and you create butter and cheese. Cheese is essentially a biological battery. It is a brilliant way to store summer grass calories for winter survival. You physically cannot do this with horse milk. The chemical makeup of the liquid actively prevents it. The fat globules in horse milk are too small, and the ratio of casein to whey proteins is completely inverted compared to a cow. When you try to churn horse milk, the fat never clumps together. It never separates properly. It just stays stubbornly liquid. You cannot make make horse butter. You cannot make hard horse cheese. Therefore, you cannot store it. It spoils. As a foundational agricultural calorie source, it fails the ultimate test of human civilization, preservation. Now, there is one massive, world-altering exception to this rule, and a specific group of people actually used this exact liquid to conquer half the known world. Nomadic tribes on the Asian steppe, specifically the Mongols, looked at the watery, unchurnable nature of horse milk and solved the preservation problem with a very different kind of chemistry. They didn't try to make cheese, they made alcohol. By taking fresh mare's milk, pouring it into a massive leather bag made of horsehide, and strapping it to their saddles while they rode, the constant motion of the horse and the heat of the sun churned the natural sugars in the milk. It fermented rapidly. The result was a mildly alcoholic, sour, fizzy beverage called kumis. For Genghis Khan and the Golden Horde, kumis was a brilliant, rugged survival fuel. It provided hydration, calories, and a slight buzz, all from the animals they were already riding into battle. It allowed Mongol armies to move across the continent at terrifying speeds without needing vulnerable supply lines or massive herds of slow-moving cattle following behind them. But this is the crucial distinction that proves the rule. They were not drinking it like a cold glass of milk with breakfast. They were drinking it like a survival beer. The Mongolian exception doesn't break the rule. It proves the exact parameters of the rule. They only consumed it because their specific environment, the harsh, fast-moving, nomadic reality of the steppe, made slow-moving cows impossible to keep. And this brings us to the ultimate, underlying reason the rest of humanity looked at the horse and decided to leave its milk entirely alone. Humans didn't ignore horse milk by accident. We didn't just forget to try it. We ignored it because early human societies were incredibly ruthless at optimizing their systems for survival. We looked at a cow and recognized that its highest possible utility was generating calories. It was a biological machine built for slow, stationary extraction. But we looked at a horse and realized its highest possible utility was entirely different. A horse's value wasn't in its meat, and it certainly wasn't in its milk. Its value was in generating power, leverage, and status. A horse gave a fragile human being the ability to travel faster than any apex predator. It gave a farmer the sheer kinetic power to plow a field, 10 times larger than he could ever do by hand. It gave a king the leverage to build a terrifying cavalry and crush a neighboring army. You don't hook a wooden plow to a high-performance sports car, and you do not exhaust the biological engine that runs your empire by forcing it to produce a watery, low-fat liquid you can't even turn into cheese. We separated the animals by their ultimate utility. The cow became the battery. The horse became the engine. Speaking of the bizarre, ruthless ways early humans figured out how to survive using the environment around them, we take modern medicine completely for granted today. But what actually happened when you cut your arm open 5,000 years ago? How did ancient humans actually survive getting sick without antibiotics? Click the video on screen right now and let's find out.